rise of AfD has brought a very great success to the right-wing extremist movement and hate speech spreading in Germany, in German social media, and the public discourse has changed. This refers to the normalization of ethnocentristic vocabulary and ideology, which has been normalized, and certain shares of society radicalized as well. Violence increased, and even right-wing terrorism is explained as a result of the normalization of ethnocentristic and racist speech and ideology throughout society. So the debate is that democracy is quite in danger, even though followers of right-wing extremist parties or right populist parties as AfD are a clear minority, and even they seem to have reached a level that they can stop. And in the most recent surveys, they even seemed to lose some support. Nevertheless, we have clearly seen that conservative and liberal political actors have been not that strict on their national party's decision not to cooperate with the right-wing extremist parties, especially AfD, but they have explained that it might be useful to cooperate in some points, especially on the local and regional levels. And the decision not to cooperate with the radical right was on the national level, but on some local levels, the personal and institutional connections are rather strong, and actually conservative and liberal politicians used the partial cooperation with AfD there to build a counterweight to left and green party politicians, which caused quite a lot of scandals for especially, or for instance, because they voted together with AfD against other candidates. They voted for AfD candidates for head of city councils and so on. And in general, in society, the debate about the shifting of the limits of the speakable and the immense flow of right-wing vocabulary and racist ideology into everyday life is discussed very much in Germany, and civic society activists and left politicians have a strong consensus that this must be fought back, that this must pushed back, and they clearly see the dangers for democracy, of course. The main question in the civic society and in the media debate about the far right and how to react is, in my opinion, the question whether such opinions have a legitimate place in public discourse, in public discussions, and should be given airtime in media and overall attention. And the problem is that society and the media has partially given in to the far-right call for freedom of speech and anti-political correctness, according to the far-right definition of these terms. Thus, in Germany, the far-right's urge to gain influence on societal debates, the argument that there is an overweight of minority representation, which disables policies for the majority, and liberalization of society might gone too far because society loses its center. This is very popular in the political and societal mainstream today, and one general debate is about the alleged conflict between the social question versus so-called identity politics. And even left and Greens have taken this argument, have adopted it, and argue about the social question versus so-called identity politics. And we see that ideologies of the far right have entered the main discourse in society. In the meantime, many politicians and public intellectuals in Germany nowadays speak out against political correctness and radical left intolerance. It has become astonishingly popular in everyday life in Germany to ridicule gender mainstreaming. It's clearly a reaction and a defensive reaction to the international decolonize and Black Lives Matter movement, which has become visible in Germany as well. So we see that this regressive reactions to liberal and pluralistic democratic movements are very strong, even in the political mainstream. The newest media hype is debates on intolerance, leftist cancel culture, often as an excuse to repel even the modest forms of criticism. So we see on the one hand, right-wing extremist and far-right ideology has made its way into the center of society. On the other hand, we see that civic society activists and leftists try to keep the debate open and try to scandalize the shift to the right. I'm not sure if the discourse in Germany is influenced by transnational developments that much, if it comes to a reaction to the far right. Which is very one point that is very strong is the discussion about populism in general, yeah, and talking about the US, talking about Trumpism, or what's going on in Bolsonaro's Brazil and so on. The European perspective, especially what's going on in Scandinavian countries, isn't reflected that much, in my opinion. A strong debate about what I said before, the discussion whether or not the social question must be highlighted to fight back anti-democratic tendencies, to overcome the increased mistrust in democratic institutions and democratic parties. This debate is transnational, and it's very strong actually in the center-left political parties in Germany, and they see or they highlight that there are important tasks like on a more general level to strengthen inclusive solidarity in society and European solidarity, defending pluralist democracy, its values, safeguarding democratic debate and highlighting participation on a national and European level. And I think there is a consensus that convincing and more convincing concepts for future welfare state development are needed, and social justice and cultural progress has to be strengthened. And it is highlighted that we need a strong new narrative of today's and tomorrow's society in order to have a striking counterweight to the regressive, reactionary, and authoritarian ideas of yesterday. And basically, that's it, I think.